Okay, this was one hell of a fucking July 11th. This was not one, two, three, four amazing things happened. The morning began with Lionel Messi's Argentina winning the first major title since 1993. 28 years, man. I thought it will never happen. And then moved on to, in Abu Dhabi, the legendary UFC fighter, not as good anymore, Conor McGregor. He is Irish and he got his leg broken in the 5th minute of the first round of the title fight against Dustin Poirier, who's a legend American fighter. But guess what? This dude still did not stop trash talking Dustin even after broken leg. He was telling, motherfucker, I couldn't understand what he was saying because so I just said, motherfucker, this guy is fucking nonsense. And that guy came out was like, this guy's completely nuts, man. I hope he goes home to his family or something, but he's completely nuts. Then nobody likes Novak Djokovic, but he's got 20 majors. He won his 6th Wimbledon title and 20th Grand Slam, which if people don't know, in Wimbledon, it is in England. Guess where? And guess who beat an Italian for the first time? Matteo Berrettini, first Italian ever to reach the Wimbledon final, but unfortunately lost in 4 sets. Now Nadal, Federer and Djokovic all have 20 Grand Slams. It cannot get any better. Yes, it can, because in the finals dogfight of the day for the biggest trophy in European football, it was England coming home against Italy, didn't come home. Okay, but I don't want to start there. So let's start with Copa final between footballing powerhouses and fierce rivals, Argentina and Brazil. Now, Lionel Messi began his playing career in 2005. He was 17 years old with Argentina. He was very young, and interestingly, he got sent off in his very first match against, I don't know which team, but he was 17, and now it's July 2021. This was his first match. I think he unfortunately hit some guy and he got sent off. Look at him, he's so upset. And then right now, July 2021, he is 34. It's the twilight of his career. Still hadn't won anything big with his country. The greatest player to grace the footballing field has gone through so many heartbreaks. 2014 World Cup final loss to Germany, 1-0. They could have scored, Higuain could have scored, he could have scored. It was happened that this right Maracana, Rio, exactly where they won today, happened here. And he was completely crestfallen. In 2015, they lost to Chile, Copa America final, Chile 1-0. And then he even refused to take his medal for the best player of the Copa America. That's how, and then again next year, because they were like, let's keep playing Copa America every year. It's just like Premier League, like, just please keep playing. And then again, these fuckers lost to Chile again, 1-0. And that's when Lionel Messi apparently missed a penalty as well himself. So he was distraught after that loss completely. So, and then after, I think we thought like it will never happen. But it did. Finally, there was light at the end of the tunnel. I have a few questions for you, Lal. What are your views on Messi and Argentina finally crossing the final hurdle here? And Argentina beating Brazil in a big tournament in Brazil, which I found out it was for the first time ever. Not even Maradona or anybody else has done it. And what does this mean to Messi personally and Messi's legacy now? Because everybody has said that he's never won anything. And don't you wish Maradona was alive to live this moment?
Yeah, I think, okay, first of all, crazy, like super football, sporting weekend in general, although I don't follow UFC as much, but yeah, sports all around. What more can you ask for, right? Coming to Copa America, I think I wanted Messi to win something internationally, and that has happened. Just because I want the ever-going debate of Cristiano Ronaldo versus Messi to be always on the balance. I think Ronaldo had a slight edge over Messi, that he had won a Euro captaining his national side, Portugal, and Messi didn't have any international honors. So that was one area where Ronaldo fans would always put it in front of Messi fans and rub it in their face. Hope now the honors are even. Both have one title each, and the debate can go on till eternity. And I feel for Messi. I really feel for that guy. He's probably one of the nicest footballers, and no doubt, hands down, the most talented footballer I have ever seen. There have been players who've come and gone, and this guy is just another level. Like I would hopefully one day tell my grandkids that I saw Messi playing in my days, and that's how he's going to be revered. And I'm happy that he finally won. I don't really care too much about Argentina winning. I just wanted him to win, and that's great. I think this answers his legacy. he's won something. I mean, who knows? Things go well, they can have a good go at the World Cup next year. And yeah, Maradona and Messi had a special bond. You could see that there is this, master and tutor. I mean, sort of relationship, master and student, or father son sort of a bond with them. I think when Messi made his debut, or Maradona was coach of Argentina for a few years, and the kind of bond they had was just amazing. And yeah, it would have been very, very special if Maradona would be, seeing this.
All right, fair enough. So, a couple of things you said, I want to quickly touch on that. I think when it comes to talent, a lot of people do ask that who is the best player, is Ronaldo or this. We love Ronaldo, and Ronaldo, I think technically would be just done better. I mean, from Champions League and even Euro, and people will say definitely Euro is bigger than Copa and everything. But I think just pure football. I mean, and as Maradona often said, he loved him, but he said he had no personality. Okay, he said over and over. And whether I agree or not, there is some, he does get nervous, right? He got nervous in the 90th minute when he just opened goal and he just slips. We saw it all, right? It just happened. But just pure footballing, I mean, anybody who knows football, understands football, this guy is like something completely crazy. Like there's no comparison to Ronaldo or anybody. I mean, on footballing field, Ronaldo will even do better than this guy and has done better than this guy overall. But just pure football, he's video game. He is like video game. He's nowhere completely video game. And I think even for Maradona, because it's not Maradona passed away 5-7 years ago. He passed away a few months ago. So it's just this year, right? So and just by chance, right, by mistake. So he could have been alive, could have seen this, because Maradona himself was waiting since forever for these idiots to win something. His heartbreak was heartbreak. He would have probably lived another 20 years had he seen this thing. Who knows? Anything is possible. So briefly on this thing, I don't want to go on too much, but I felt like Argentina stuck to their game plan in the game, that this is something they've been following, being pragmatic, score the first goal and then defend, which pretty much did not work against any other team, but they somehow still got through. And it worked against Brazil. They did not concede, although my heart and my balls were in my mouth when Richarlison scored in the 56th minute, yeah.
Very close.
And then the flag goes up by this really good looking referee, linesman, and he was like, wow. And I was like, thank God that, because I swear to God, because if they had scored, they might have scored another goal. Even if they hadn't, in the penalties, Team Messi, I think this would be way too much. If I'm saying English.
Yeah, I found the match.
Horrible match.
The match was not great. I mean, I'm happy Messi won, but it was not that Argentina knocked Brazil's socks off, or vice versa. Like the match was just drubbed. It would have been like two club sides playing against each other for a non-consequential, match. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It was a final after all, and they won. History books will not, put an asterisk against the scoreline and say it was a dull match. So yeah.
No crowd, nothing. I mean, they got some people. I don't know who are these people anyway. It was just family. I think people have big families in Argentina and Brazil anyway.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something which anybody who's listening, they're like, why are we not talking about what we need to talk about? Okay, it's England versus Italy. I'm going to just go through a couple of few live notes that I was making. I was just watching. The match hadn't started, even just started. I was just settling in. I was like, I have two laptops. I was watching in one laptop typing, and I'm like, suddenly Luke fucking Shaw scores, and it's not even this 2 minutes over. It's like less than 100 seconds, and apparently it's the fastest goal in the Euro history. And by the way, in the last podcast, I was saying that I really hope somebody scores early, which will ensure that the match becomes better. Did not become better, but thank God England scored earlier, and then at least Italy knew that they had to go for it, and they did go for it. And I mean, as I said, Luke Shaw, Mourinho's favorite child, scored his first goal in England shirt. It was just crazy, man. All the stars are aligning. You had said it over and over again. I somehow feel like a little bit regret that I didn't actually push you on the last podcast, because I was saying that I believe in miracles, but I don't believe in fairy tale endings. Like, I have fallen in love 3 times, but all these people have married somebody else. So I know I don't believe in fairy tale endings. I just believe in miracles, and they have been miracles. Then if you remember that in the 22nd minute, Jorginho got a knock, and I was like, is he going to go off? He's going to go off. This is like completely working in England's favor. He comes back within a couple of minutes, and then in the 48th minute, then on the penalty, Sterling penalty. Dude, if that was penalty, then this was penalty 2 times, 3 times, because somebody was pulling him, right? But now the referee is like, nah, not gonna do it, because your reputation precedes you, buddy, and I'm not gonna give it. And this reputation is gonna precede him forever now. And the penalty, if this penalty was awarded, Harry Kane scores, because everything was aligning in their favor, 2-0. there's no way Italy's coming back. It was just not going to happen. But then was not given, and nobody's even talking about it. The 67-minute, one of the most crappiest fucking goals Bonucci scored. And of all the people, Bonucci scores and Italy are level. Now I'm like, this is going to go to extra time. It does go to extra time. Then it goes to penalties, because in the extra time, I think nobody wanted to score in the first place at all. Now, if you notice, Lal, that Italy dominated game after conceding in the second minute, 65% possessions, 19 shots on goal to England, 6. My questions to you, and anything else you want to answer, it's like completely open for you. But do you reckon England could have been a little bit less pragmatic and a little less scared when they were playing, specifically after Italy were constantly threatening, keeping the ball and threatening the England goal? And I completely understand that it's pragmatism that has worked for them and got them to the final, but I really think it's reasonable because they scored pretty much in the very first minute. So Italy had more than 90 minutes, including the stoppage and all. It was reasonable to say that Italy will score at least once, right? So, and with so much firepower up front, they could have gone for the goal a little bit more. And now people are criticizing Southgate, and I don't think it's completely unfair. But I'm saying right now, not as a thing like criticizing somebody, but I think it was ridiculous. It was a little bit wishful thinking that Italy will never score in the 90 minutes that they have now.
I think so. Firstly, I think what atmosphere, my God, just the build up to the final, the whole hype in the English media, the romance around the game, that was just terrific. And like, you're right, like second minute goal, I was just getting my beers and some chips and I was just coming to my couch and I missed the goal. I was like, what the hell happened? What is this, man? And like, I had to like watch multiple replays and then I got it. But oh my God. So at that point in time, I thought, done. The game is done. England started with 7 defenders. Like, they had 7 fucking defensive players on the field, not including the goalkeeper. If you include the goalkeeper, there were 8 players like meant to defend the ball. So, okay, let's start from top. Like, let's start from Southgate's selection. I think it was, being pragmatic is one thing. Being foolhardy and completely going to the extreme defensive end is another. Okay, I think the great Italian teams of the past and Mourinho would not have picked such a defensive team. I'm telling you.
He said that. I was listening to him while I was waiting for you guys. Yeah.
It's just insane, like the kind of team that he picked. And I thought that this worked out perfectly. Like, everything is working. Like, luck is with Southgate. They scored in 2 minutes and now they'll sit back and absorb the pressure. But they forgot, if you score in the second minute, you can't expect the other team not to come back for in the remaining 88 minutes. And they just gave the ball away and they said, okay, play. And they went back, and eventually Italy scored. But just think of it. Think about it. First 20 minutes, England were playing amazingly well, and I thought, oh my God, like the Italians are in shambles, and this might be over sooner than we expected. But what happened? Remember, in the last podcast, I said 2 things why I think England has an edge. One is they're physically fitter. They're better. They're fitter players in the England squad. And second is they have a better bench strength. Southgate already nullified both those advantages that England had by not pressing Italians. Like Bonucci and Chiellini, no matter how great they are, they should be like running around the park, and by 60th minute they should be panting and like praying Mancini to get them off the field because they're so tired. England didn't do that. They didn't make Italians run around the park. After the 20th minute, they were like just sitting and the Italians were dictating the pace. Like Chiellini was orchestrating from the back and from the center of the field, passing around, no running at all. And second is bench. What the hell happened to the bench? Like, they got on their main players just to take penalties. Like, it's just crazy. Southgate was like scared shit that he doesn't want to lose. And what happened in the penalties? It's a lucky lottery, right? You can't bank on penalties to win a tournament. And you're right. In extra time, no team wanted to win. Everyone was waiting for penalties. And I don't know why. To be very honest, I think in the last podcast or before that we mentioned, no team ever has won 2 shootouts in the same tournament. The Italians have defied that rule.
Italians did, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what the Italians were thinking. And England have such a poor record in penalties over the years. I don't know what they were thinking. So, I mean, okay, I 100%, I think all credit to Southgate for getting England this far. But the final loss is, I believe, is 100% on him. I don't think the players let him down. He told the players to play in a certain way in certain positions. They did to the best of their abilities, and they lost. Tactically, Southgate could have, or if he was just a little brave. He's not brave. Just a little bit of bravery in this situation would have won him the game. And I don't know how. I don't know. My one question to you: what is his bigger regret? Is the '96 penalty miss where he missed the penalty and England lost the game, or this game?
Well, time will tell. So it's just like, I can't answer your question honestly. I've just not thought about so much that, but I'm just thinking I'm sorry, I was so like engrossed in what you were saying, and suddenly I just like out of the blue you asked me that question. I was just thinking that your Southgate, including you, everybody kept saying stars aligning. You just say like, if I just, and then you scored in second minute, you just say, let's stick to this goddamn thing. Italy are scared eventually. They're also going for the penalties. We are going for the penalty. Somehow we'll win. My idea was, let's talk about penalties. And by the way, I often say to people, like as a writer, that I say there are no happy endings. There are just happy in-betweens. Because I know that also relates to factor that I was in a lot of relationship and I didn't get married to any of them. But even with you got married. Eventually somebody will die, right? So I always say there are no happy endings, there are happy in-betweens, which I'm trying to tell people, it's not a bad thing. It means that live the moment. Right now you have the time, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Right? A plane can crash on your head. I mean, yeah, it's possible. I know a couple of people who planes crashed on their head. They're the nicest people I know. Okay, so England had a dream run, but they didn't have a fairy tale finish, which is fine. Now, Harry in the penalty, Harry Kane, Harry Maguire. I thought after I shit all over Harry Kane for shit penalty in the last match, got lucky, scored on the rebound. This time, Harry Kane's penalty was proper £200 million striker, and Harry Maguire even fucking better.
It was the best penalty I have ever seen in a knockout tournament. Like, I mean, I have no words to describe. He hit the top corner. I think he dismantled the camera, which is like in the corner of the goal post.
He did.
It was that pinpoint precise. Okay, it was the best, and the reaction after that. I mean, oh my God, he was so passionate. He's a leader. Okay, like every day I see him, and my respect for him keeps on growing. And that was like an amazing penalty. But yeah, I think the next three penalties, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about, and this is where the strategy comes into play, right? So unfortunately, I have not followed Sancho as much. You have, so you can maybe talk about it. But I swear to God, if any motherfucker tells me again Rashford is a youngster, I'm gonna punch them in the balls. He's been playing since 2015, okay? This is 6 years for Manchester fucking United, okay? He's not a youngster, he's 23, he's gonna turn 24 in October. So stop calling him a fucking youngster. Now, and also everybody knows, if Rashford is, like, there's a reason why Rashford does not take penalties for United, because he keeps fucking missing them, okay? There's a reason. Now you put him out there, I think he got definitely unlucky. His strategy was fine. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that you put him out there and he was brought in the last minute of extra time, as you mentioned earlier, similar to Sancho, last minute, right? So now what happens is, because this dude misses it, next person is also a young guy who's hardly ever played, just like Rashford in the tournament. Sancho also brought in, they're not even warmed up yet. Fine. I don't believe in the theory that you need to be warming up for the fucking penalty. I mean, you just need to have the brain in the right place. And Sancho's penalty was just horrible. Now what has happened, because Rashford has now missed, Sancho is already thinking. Now he is thinking, so he screws up the big thing. And now the fifth penalty, who comes out? Saka. Now you put Saka out there for the fifth penalty, a 19-year-old, when you have Sterling and Grealish warming the benches with their asses.
He had Henderson in the past.
No, he probably didn't say no. I don't know what the hell happened. Did he just say no? We don't want to do it?
Did you notice, like, Rashford, when he was coming into, he had a chit that I think the coaching staff gave him, and I think he ran and gave it to someone. So this was completely strategized, and Southgate was in this plan. I don't know why why would Jack Grealish not take a penalty? I mean, I don't know whether he is not a natural penalty taker, or I have no idea. Henderson usually takes penalty. I've seen him take penalties for Liverpool and England before. I don't know.
And he was on the field, right? He was
Yes.
70. Oh, no, he was taken. No, Henderson was taken off in the last minute,
yeah.
120th minute. I just saw the list.
Correct.
Double checking
Yeah,
it.
he
So
was
that was the problem. Yeah, so that was the problem because but by the way, your point still stands. Then he must have not wanted it in the first place. These guys must see if they've not discussed, that's complete bullshit. They must have discussed it. He was probably not on for it. See, these two guys have been specifically brought on. It did not happen last minute, okay? It did not happen last minute. It's not like you're 17-year-old and suddenly you just meet this girl in this amazing party. Suddenly you realize that, damn it, I don't have any contraceptives. It doesn't happen this way. This is Euro final after like God, more than 50 fucking years. So this was decided and they brought in these two players. I'm just thinking that why Rashford and Sancho are the penalty takers, like designated. These people don't deserve it at all. Rashford 100% does not deserve it. I don't know what is Sancho's record in, but after Rashford missed it, you put Sancho, who's not played at all.
Sancho has played one game in the whole tournament. He's like
one game, not full game, right? Surely, please be clear to the audience. Yeah. Not full, right?
He's just a squad player, random squad player in England, and suddenly in the final you tell him, "Come on, love, now is your chance. Take the fourth penalty and like take it." So I think one is, I mean, I completely like, why would you get a 19-year-old take the last penalty? Why can't Harry Kane take the last penalty? If that was your thing, why do you put all your pressure on this young 18, 19-year-old guy? I don't know what will happen to his mental health now. I don't know if you read like how these three guys who missed the penalties, they are being racially targeted and abused on social media.
But that is expected. I mean, I don't know what to do about it, and there's nothing I want to talk about because it's bullshit goes on. Because English people think when you do take the knee, you keep taking the knee. This is going to solve the problem. Just get real, man. Just get real. Also, by the way, just quickly on this thing, I was just looking at the chart. I've constantly heard that Pickford is a very good penalty taker, does not take it. I'm just going to make sure Shaw is there, but maybe Shaw had scored the goal, but maybe Shaw doesn't want to take it, fine. But then Sterling is there, definitely on. Your Kane debate, see, I can understand the Kane debate, but let's be honest, like either takes the first one, last one, I mean, it can go either way, right? Fine. So he takes it well, fine. So but Pickford is there, and Sterling is definitely there. Henderson, they deliberately take off, so I don't know. He doesn't want to take it. You can't force him to take it. Rashford wants to take it. I can understand it. I think Rashford did get unlucky. His strategy worked. He was in the right. Yeah, but he
got Donnarumma to blink, by the way. They were both playing games. Who will blink first? And I just feel sad. It was just inches, right, in the execution. He got Donnarumma to blink, go to the other side. It's a matter of small margins.
But once you do that, I mean, you don't have to, by the way, just can you inform me that people like me that you don't have to tell the referee or anything, you don't have to follow any order, right? You can still change it, right? So I'm saying once Rashford misses it, just change, make a change, quick something, talk about it or something. But I know maybe it's very difficult, I don't know what it is. But I definitely feel Pickford and Raheem Sterling should have just gone for it. Like, I know people can still say that Raheem Sterling is also a shit penalty taker, which is definitely true. You're still the striker, right? I'm just saying instead of Sancho and Saka,
far more experienced than Sancho and Saka.
He's your primary striker, man. So if he has to fix himself, so I'm just saying, see, if you have a problem, I still wanted to not have Saka in the fifth penalty. In fact, it's just, I think, I don't know, as you were saying that they had a strategy, they were just banking on penalty, but how are you banking on penalty? You have no plan. You have youngsters coming in, and Rashford, who misses a lot of penalty. You have Sterling, who misses a lot of penalty. You have Henderson, who doesn't want to take it. Pickford, I don't know, did somebody ask him or not? What the fuck happened? So it was very confusing. Because, by the way, Italy were no fucking good. Jorginho missed a fucking penalty. They missed two, and then he still stood up. By the way, England were leading. It was them they blinked first, right? They blinked first with a bad penalty, and then these guys won 3 penalties in a row, Pickford, and then all three of them are like...
England had an advantage. They saw the Italians take penalties in the last round. Pickford would have known who is going which way. And as you've heard, right, no team has won 2 shootouts in the same tournament. It's difficult to replicate that. And even after that, England screwed up in the penalties. Pickford was doing the right thing. He was going the right way. He knew which striker will go which. And he did his job. He saved 2 penalties. And you can't expect a keeper to save more than 2.
I have no problem with Pickford. I think Pickford is perfectly fine. I think all I wanted Pickford to do. In fact, by the way, in the last podcast, you said when Morata stepped up to take the penalty and you had this amazing epiphany that he's going to miss. I had the same fucking epiphany when Rashford came and I was like, this guy's going to bloody miss. I think he what he did, mind games are amazing and he missed. I don't blame him at all. I just felt that Rashford's going to miss and he fucking missed and I was like, wow. But at the end of the day, my final word on this match is, you can say something else if you feel like it. And my final word is, in a way, I'm just happy that for once in the longest time, a team that was a defensive team who just did not want to attack didn't win the fucking Euro or a World Cup, because it was always some team which has just been defensive, they end up winning, which is Portugal. Even France won it that way, even the World Cup also, and even before them, and it's been going on since Greece won Euro in 2004. It's been happening over and over again. The finals, we always expect them to be scrappy, drab, because even when Germany were dominating in 2014 World Cup, they had just beaten Brazil 7-1. In the final, they could have easily lost. Higuain could have scored that one. Messi could have scored before that, till finally that guy eventually scored, whose name I've forgotten because he kind of like lost. He didn't become the great player that he was supposed to become. It was Marcelo Rios or who somebody. No, not Marcelo Rios. I completely forgotten his name.
Was it Götze?
He was. No. I'll figure it out. But yeah, that guy was supposed to become something big, but he didn't. Götze. Sorry. I could not understand. Yeah, Mario. Yeah, Götze. So he was supposed to become the next big shit. He did not. He just became shit. So. Yeah, so here we are. It did not come home.
Just to take your word, I think fairy tales, you don't get fairy tale endings. I think Italians got there. If you look at from Italian perspective, it was a fairy
because they were not barking everywhere, right? That is our point.
Yeah, 2018, like a lot of these same players didn't even qualify for the World Cup. Like Italy not qualifying for a World Cup is just blasphemy. And there were some players from this particular squad who were a part of that qualifying group and didn't make it. Mancini took on, came into this disaster rubble, rebuilt the whole team, hasn't lost a game in 3 years. Last they lost was I think September 2018. And look at what he's done with this young team. No superstar, no egos. It felt like a band of brothers with Bonucci and Chiellini, puppet masters and just controlling the nerves and of these youngsters. And I'm happy for Italy. I am completely with you. I'm happy that parking the bus didn't give you the trophy. Even when you have such good resources, Southgate parked the bus. It's just, I just feel bad for the English players and English fans. But I'm happy that the Italians won. They totally deserve. On the balance of scale, if you ask a neutral, who is more deserving to win this tournament, English or the Italians? I would say Italians. They've entertained more, they've played attacking football, they've played better, barring the semi-final, which is the only time when you saw that probably a better team lost. In this also, if you just remove the first 10-15 minutes, Italians controlled everything. And I'm happy that they won.
And deservedly in the semi-final, that Spain was just the better team. It was not Italy was not trying to fucking win the game. Spain was just better, because every punk kept saying Spain is gonna be shit. No, they were not shit. It's just what they do is sometimes does not work and does not look good, because when you don't score after keeping 83% of the possession. But they are a brilliant side, and that's what they showed Italy. But eventually Italy got through, and eventually Italy won the goddamn thing. It is definitely a fairy tale finish for Italy, because at the end only one team wins. Why we keep saying it's not a fairy tale finish for England, because those are the people who are always in the streets like dogs, as you saw the videos after that, beating about the Italian people, and some of them are fairly old, some of them are fat and unhealthy, and once they are on the ground, you're still hitting them on the head, and none of them were actually even retaliating. And I saw some young people saying in Italy, they're like, why are you hitting us? What? I don't know what these people said to them. I'm sure it's not just one-sided story, but they are in your house and you are 10-1. Can you just have some fucking dignity and some grace at that point in time? Once he's down, you're still hitting them. Can you just get over it? And look at you. Most of them are fat and stupid people. And I was like, you just lost. Show some fucking grace, man. And by the way, there were 100,000 people in that fucking stadium, not 70,000. That's just bullcrap.
I didn't see empty seats. I thought, how is this? The capacity is 90,000. You are saying 60,000. I could easily guess that there were 80,000 people in the stadium.
And then, by the way, the rest of them did not have the tickets.
Yeah, a lot of people actually No, I just wanted to say that I saw that a lot of people actually barged in and
at the beginning.
took the seats for handicapped people and all
Yeah.
that, and they were not able to. The actual ticket holders were not able to get in.
In fact, the match was about to be delayed because a lot of people barged in. Like the security couldn't manage. Before the start of the match, it went on BBC. A lot of people just like pushed their way, and they didn't even have tickets. They just like, I mean, I don't know what to even say to this kind of behavior. But yeah, I mean, my last word on this is I am really excited. I'm really happy with the Euros. It's got me excited to the World Cup next year. I'm just happy and I'm looking forward to the World Cup next year.
Yeah, I think you're completely right, because now before, if this had ended exactly how everybody expected, like a France fucking winning and Southgate becoming a great Southgate, it would have been like very weird for me, because I'm like, he's not really great. He's just doing something which is not actually improving the football quality. He's just following a template that Portugal had followed, Greece had followed, and France had followed earlier. It is not good. And now because France fucked up, Belgium fucked up, everybody will be coming in. Argentina will be back now.
Correct, and he's gotten lucky with the draws, both in 2018 World Cup and this one. I mean, he can't do anything about that. He can't do anything about that, but he's gotten, I mean, I have to say, he has gotten lucky with the draws in both those tournaments.
Yeah, we always say you can only beat who's ever in front of them, but absolutely draws. Every match is Wembley, apart from Ukraine, when you're playing Ukraine, for fuck's sake, in quarterfinals. So I think now a lot of teams are hurt, particularly Germany with the new coach. I mean, great guy, Bayern Munich, Hansi Flick. And now it's very difficult to replicate. Now people have forgotten Argentina. They'll be back. Brazil will be hurt after this
France
loss.
will
They'll be
be
like, we're
hurt.
back.
France will be
Man,
hurt.
this is... By the way, how many teams are in the... Yeah, France. Belgium is still going to get final chance. By the way, he finally, like after that, they sat down. He said, like, he said, I'm continuing. As I was saying, that he didn't commit it, but now he's committed to it. Deschamps is also committed to it, and a lot of people, they've just discussed is like, do you want to? It's going to be fucking fun. Is it 64 teams? By the way, what's the format? I don't want to get into another discussion, but there's some different
I
format.
have to read it up.
It's going to be crazy, right?
It's going to be in Qatar. I've heard there'll be drinks baked because it's going to be so hot, and there are some air-conditioned stadiums. It's going to
become like basketball, right? Every team like time out. Like basketball, time out. Come back. 3 seconds. 3 seconds left. 3 seconds left. 3 seconds left. You watch basketball. 3 seconds left, and then they go back, and then 1 second left. Come back. I was like, what the fuck is happening? This 1 second, like, because in basketball, when you take the shot or something, they don't count any of it. You don't count it all. So you can still. And by the way, within 1 second, you can throw the ball from one end to the other. So it's pretty neat. So I think this was a good podcast. We have like absolutely nothing to talk about. We still talked about 30 minutes. That's how amazing we are. By the way, your contract is back online because you changed your bet from Italy to England, and ESPN is back interested in you. They're throwing 100 million. It's sitting at your terrace. Take it and leave us. But I know you love the Gujarati fafda that we send you all the time, and you're going to stick around with us. At least, even if you work for ESPN, you will still moonlight with us. And we will continue. Most of your chin is getting like stuck in your name, which I have not noticed. 100 times I've told you, like, watch it. Who is this? Lionel Messi. He seems very upset. I don't know why he's upset. Okay, upset, and finally happy.
Yeah, this is a very beautiful image. That's why I wanted to share.
Yeah, producer and then we had a fourth person also, voice of a child that he has just stolen from his neighborhood, and because we sell child also, that's also because our podcast doesn't make any money. Stop judging us. People keep judging people like that. Okay, all right, now because both our background is same, take care. Hopefully you enjoyed this thing. We'll be back with the Premier League and probably cricket and some other funny news. Take care, like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Thank you, Bhargav, for the great time that you gave us throughout the Euros, and eventually Italy won deservedly. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.